Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Hope you're doing good. Karl Bryan coming at you for another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. I'm here without my boy, a Road Dog, today. The schedule's not aligning and the show must go on. And I would have you know that I am on day 2 of a fast, which I was texting with my boy Road Dog about. And I've done many a fast before. I've done like an 11-day fast, and I've done lots of 4 or 5 day fasts. So it's not a challenge, but truthfully, day 2 for me tends to be a little bit, I'm going to call it the hardest. So I may or may not be. It's not more ornery than I would normally be, but all is good. I get asked all the time, like, how do you do it? Right? Like, how do you push through, and how do you because people have tried fast, and truthfully, it can be a bit of a challenge, but honestly, you just got to run over the top of the hunger, right? You just look at the Twinkie and say, who's stronger, the Twinkie or you? And you've got to win. Much like, you do a cold plunge. Look, you stand over the water. It's cold for me. It's cold for you. It's cold for anybody, right? What you got to do, you got to decide who's stronger, right? The water or you. You got to run over the top of it. And by the way, comes time to cold calling. It comes time to going to the networking group. It comes up to, speaking to that entrepreneur that might make you a little bit nervous to walk up to. You just got to go and do it. Who's the stronger one, right? Anyway, so I don't know. So there you go. I'm on day 2 of a fast, and I got to tell you, I do feel a little bit ornery, like edgy, but I got to tell you, just, I feel good. Like my skin, my mind, super clear. Translation, something I would encourage you to do if something you haven't done. Anywho, okay, so Road Dog fires me a text. He goes, keep it tight and short shoots. Word association, BNI. So there you go. Let's do that in Road Dog's voice. Okay, bit of word association, I guess. Okay, so BNI, like, it's okay, right? It's just, you got to see it as the sandbox that it really is, right? That's generally speaking. You can meet some great people and great businesses there, but generally they're going to be of the smaller variety, right? And that's okay, right? But let me tell you this, people spend $750,000 to be part of the golf club. And it's not so that they can play golf, right? Why do they do it? They do it because of the relationships, to build relationships, maintain relationships, and be a part of what we'll describe as high-level relationships, right? They play polo for the exact same reason. People send their kids to private schools. Why? It's got a lot to do with the network, right? Both with the parents mingling and the kids mingling as they get older. And by the way, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Look it up, and you see the results of. I lived in Australia for a very long time, and private schooling in Australia. In Canada, in the States, it's not as, in grade school, it's not as. What am I going to call it? In Australia, you're generally speaking, you're sending your kid to a private school, right? And again, it's about the network, but that's the reason why. So BNI. That's it. It's a sandbox. It's fine. You should go, but see it as training as opposed to maybe. And where would I go? The golf club, the yacht club, the polo club, the, oil and gas club, the higher level ups. So there you go. That's my answer. Next one, word association, luck. Actually, this is a good one. Actually wrote an email about this, which is where it's going to come from. Luck. Here, answer this question, and honestly and truthfully. Are you lucky or are you unlucky? What's your answer? And I'm going to tell you that the answer will likely tell you everything you need to know about your level of luck, right? So what do you got to do? My daughter, I get her to say, I am amazing and I am healthy every day before she gets out of the car. There's a reason why I'm doing it, right? I am. So you got to say, I am lucky. And I think luck will start coming your way. And by the way, I have a neighbor who won. So I got a saying. This actually comes from my buddy Tassie, who very sadly passed away. Actually, spoke to my other buddy Joni Mo just last night about Tassie, um, um, uh, in Australia. In Australia. But anyway, so Tassie, uh, he passed away at the age of 52 of cancer just not long ago. And we miss him and we had a good chat about him. But anyway, so he used to always say, if you buy a lottery ticket, you're already a loser. And I used to love that. That stuck with me for a very, very long time. But then I can tell you that I've got a neighbor who won $40 million in the lottery. And then I know another guy who won $25 million. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not the best advice, but do I have a lottery ticket in my wallet? Hard no. Um, but I would just say, like, if you don't, like, I just say this, if you don't buy a lottery ticket, you definitely can't get lucky and win, right? And by the way, you got to check the ticket, right? Many people buy the ticket, then they don't actually check it. And I got news for you. If you don't check it, you're not going to be able to win. But anyway, so what I said and what I would say is there could be strategy to this. Here are three things. If you say, my level of luck is not the level of luck that I would desire, help me jack it up a couple points, take you from a 6 to an 8 or an 8 to a 9.5. I would say you got to do three things. One, you got to know what you want. Two, you got to know why you want it. Three, you got to commit to pay the price to get it, buy the lottery ticket, right? You got to pay the price to get it while also detaching yourself from the outcome, right? Why? Neediness, neediness repels. Am I saying that right? Right? Like that you don't want to be needy, right? Just think abundance over scarcity, right? So you've got to detach yourself um, from the outcome. Like want is a vibration of lack, right? So what do I always say? Or but needing nothing attracts everything, right? So detach from the outcome that you can't control and dial in on the effort that you can control. I just like proximity is power. Get around people. I was saying a minute ago, like the golf course and the polo club, get around people that are doing things at a higher level. Like I always used to go to, well, I still do to a degree. If I'm in, Florida, if I'm in Miami, I guarantee I'm going to the Ferrari dealership and the Lamborghini dealership. Well, guess where that comes from? I've done that for when I was a kid, right? I'd go to the Porsche dealership, I'd go to the Ferrari dealership, I'd go to the Lamborghini dealership, and yes, I would not necessarily. I sometimes I guess I would go to one, but I'm going to all of them, right? And I would do it all the time. I would also go to open houses on the weekend of expensive houses, right? Same sense of this, like this will be mine, right? Like I'm ready. I'm just not quite ready, let's just say, right? But I'm gonna be ready, and when I am, I'm darn well gonna own that car. I'm gonna own that house. Like, you know what I mean? I'm kind of feeling it in my bones. I'm feeling it in my soul. It's something that's coming, kind of through me. Not something that I'm, hoping for and then moving on with my day, right? I think when I go to Vegas, I've never been to Vegas in a long time, but I was always go, walk the strip of the awesome hotels, specifically the Bellagio. Love that one. Hard to be in there and not think big. I always say, like a business owner that doesn't go on a vacation is nuts because you always dream bigger, you always think bigger on vacation. And the better the vacation, the better the spot, the bigger the goals, the bigger the dreams, the bigger your thinking, right? So what do? I developed, like, as I'm walking into the Bellagio, I developed a bit of a yearning, right? Made me willing to pay the price to get it. Like a tennis player looking up in the rankings to the top 10, or the number one in the world, right? Maybe I'm not ready, but I'm coming is very different than what do people say? Like they have something that I don't. They got rich parents, I don't. They got height, I don't. They got long arms, I don't. They got athletic prowess that I do not have. They got the Ivy League education and all the contacts to come with it. I don't, right? And you know, thinking along those lines, like that's not going to get it done, right? So don't operate from a place of lack, operate from a place of alignment. Like from a place of alignment, you ask me, like see and feel yourself driving the car, your family in the house, your kids sleeping in the bed, right? And what's going to happen? You start putting out the effort to own the car, to buy the house. You start making more calls, start making better calls, start finding better prospects. You build a better network. You attract better clients. You start delivering more value to your existing ones and delivering more value and creating a more value packed offer. And then what happens? Your clients stick around longer. They end up buying more from you. Think upsell, downsell, cross sell, etc. They send you more referrals. You get more speaking gigs. It's really just math. Like you're lining everything up in your favor. And what happens? You suddenly, all of a sudden, I'm a little more lucky, right? It's as much a formula and a frame as it is anything else. Like a slot machine, right? If you are playing the slots, it, it isn't random, right? It's a specific set of results that are coming out. Okay. The end. Don't play slots. And yes, you could win some money, but I got to tell you that generally speaking, it's not happening. But dice is random, right? So you roll two dice. By the way, seven is going to be if you understand the math, seven is going to be the most common. So it's like you play Monopoly. I can tell you, I can win a Monopoly a fair bit. And there's, certain things that I want to buy and certain things that I don't need to buy. And like, you know what I mean? Because seven gets rolled more often than not. And by the way, buy is the solution. I said in an email recently, imagine going around the Monopoly board over and over and over again, collecting your $200 and not buying anything. Right? Like you tell me if that's reminds you of some folks that you may or may not know, right? But anyway, so like it's random, but it's not random. Actually, there's a famous an influencer who you probably know who it is. I'm not going to say who it is, but anyway, so they just said like, um, if you have a 1 in 100 chance of building a successful business, all you got to do is try 100 times, and then you'd have a successful business for sure. Right. And by the way, I'm laughing. I have screwed up things publicly all of the time. Right. So, but it's really 60. It's not, you don't have 100% shot. Right. If you understand probability and statistics, it's about a 63% chance. That's like rolling dice twice and then saying you'd be guaranteed to getting, heads one of the two times, right? It's not the way it works. But anyway, so just that's not quite the way it works. Understanding probability might be a good idea. Like if you do start 100 businesses, no, you are not guaranteed if you got a 1 in 100 shot of one being successful. But I'm going to tell you, if you started 100 businesses, you know what I tell you? You wouldn't need to get you wouldn't need to get to, um, you know what I mean? You wouldn't need to go that far because one of them would actually kick off if you cranked it, right? Um, so anyway, so that's what I'd say about that. Um, like maybe I might just if you say you're lucky and you likely enter draws, right? The person says I'm not lucky, doesn't enter the draw, buy the lottery ticket. I just want to, you can't win if you don't enter, right? A business coach that says I suck at cold calling, we don't need to meet them, do we, to know that they don't do it and their results reflect that. Do you need to cold call to be successful? No, but the person that says I suck at cold calling and I won't do it, the randomness of that individual is that they probably don't, they're not going to put in the hard work, the effort at the networking, etc. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not random. It's a little more strategic than that. And by the way, don't call them to sell them, right? Call because you have something to say. Call because you have something to offer. Call because you have something to tell them, right? And smart people have better luck, by the way. I think that is relevant. Like while everybody was buying up Bitcoin, Bill Gates was buying up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres of farmland with fresh water. China owns hundreds of acres of farmland in the USA. By the way, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. You look it up, but that's I think what you're going to find. It's like, I love the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I watched that not long ago. There's like a 3-part series. I think it's on Netflix. But it's like, how lucky is this guy, right? Became like Mr. Olympia. He got into the movies, became, he's running California. always, and his English isn't the most fantastic. Like, how does this happen? Right. Um, Here's what you may or may not know, and hopefully you've watched the show, but this story is semi-famous out there. But he had a mentor and he made a bundle of money in real estate long before he had a shot at Hollywood. So think of being detached, right? Detached from the outcome, just control what you can control. Well, he had a bundle of money and he had a bundle of real estate. So when he went to Hollywood and he wanted to try and crack it, he didn't have that neediness in any way, shape, or form. And obviously, looking like, Mr. Olympia, looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger would have helped a little bit, no doubt. Stack things a little bit in his favor, but not completely in his favor. And again, he's a very difficult individual to understand. It's a 101, right? It's a thick Austrian accent, especially when he was young, specifically when he was young. But because, like he put himself in a position to be able to win. Let's put it that way, right? Including when he decided to, jump into the politics. Anyway, so I guess what I'm trying to say, remember, needing nothing attracts everything. Getting lucky is a strategy in many ways. And when I say, are you lucky? Your answer to that is going to go a long way. Okay, next question here. Word association, hiring first staff member. Okay, there we go. Well, people say, I know I need to hire a lead generator, right? So we like, look, if you can sell, if you can sell, you can't coach. If you can coach, you can't sell, right? That is not, you know what I mean? Overly accurate, but it's pretty close. It rhymes with reality, right? Definitely. So if you're really good at coaching, you should hire a lead generator. And if you're really good at generating the leads and closing the deals, you should hire a coach. Like that would be a good kind of frame for you, right? But I tell somebody who says, look, I'm a killer coach. I've done it for, X amount of years. Want us to start installing the operating system that we have created. They see the magic of the math, etc. I'm like, okay, well, you need to get a lead generator. And what do they say? I will hire them when I'm ready. I'm not quite ready. I'll hire them when I'm ready. Right. What's the response to that? Right. You're never going to be ready. It's not the way it works. Right. What you got to do, you got to just jump in. I remember we hired our first developer to work on the software. We had a developer, he's working on it, but at the end of the day, we're just kind of get it up and running. This is a decade and a half ago. But then we decided, look, we have got to hire a developer full time. And my business partner, Adrian, and I, we looked at each other and we're like, holy God, are we going to be able to keep him busy? Like, this is a commitment. And, these guys don't come cheap. And from day one, I can tell you that we have never not had a stack. And I mean, like just think pages and pages and pages of them, instructions for the developers to do. Right. So translation, you hire somebody and then magically the clients show up, the revenue show up, the profits show up. And things just start going in a north direction, in a positive direction, in the right direction, right? So, but you got to put yourself, and I think maybe that comes on the back of being lucky. You got to put yourself in that situation, right? You got to put yourself out there, and it just puts a little bit of pressure on, right? And by the way, you hire somebody. There's this saying that Jeff Bezos has. I can't think of what it is, but it's like a two-way door. He always wants to. He's more than happy to take a risk, but he's got to be able to come back. So he's got to have a two-way door, if that makes sense. He words it differently, but hopefully you're getting the example. Well, if you hire somebody, could you let them go? Right? Like go all in for 90 days. And if it's not working, you could always let them go. Your folks could always let them go. And let me tell you this though, wait, hiring somebody, here's what people like themselves. So there's actually an example early on in my coaching career. I was coaching a guy. He was a really high end graphic designer, and he used to do designs for Hallmark cards. Right? Translation: the guy's really good at he's a really good graphic designer. And I'm like, okay, man, look, we gotta you gotta hire somebody like immediately, right? Like you run off your feet, go, making all kinds of money. So there's no problems around that. And I'm like, look, you got to hire somebody. And then I think I had a bit of a holiday, something I ended up coming by. So 2 weeks later, boom, I'm back into his office. ready to go, right? And this is pre, there was cell phones, but there wasn't the connection like we have today in any way, shape, or form, right? Anyway, so I think I went on a holiday or something. I ended up back in his office in 2 weeks, and he goes, awesome. He goes, oh, look, I hired somebody. Guess who he hired? He hired a graphic designer, right? That I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? Like, that's not who we talked about. That's not what we agreed on. And all of a sudden he just decided and again, it's the guy who wants to get off the tools, who's really good on the tools. They always want to get out of what they're currently doing. And often that is not, sometimes that's the right decision, but very more often than not, it is not the right decision. So anyway, so he needed to be hiring, I can't even remember, but it was like admin kind of, personal assistant, secretary, that type of thing. A graphic designer. So, okay, I'm laughing, but and you probably already know where this is going, right? But a coach who's killer at coaching ends up hiring, goes, look, I got to get somebody. And then they get a coach, right? No, you need the lead generator and then you need the coach. You need those two frames and then somebody to keep you all organized. Anyway, so there you go. Hope that helps. Hope that give you something to think about. But at the end of the day, you're never like, your client's going to say this, I will hire them when I'm ready. I'll hire the developer. I'll hire the secretary. I'll hire the virtual assistant. I'll hire the sales guy. I'll hire the lead generator. I'll hire the guy to, dial in on my Facebook ads versus relying on, Facebook to help me kind of thing, which is always a bad idea. But anyway, so you got to take the plunge, and it's a two-way door, right? So you commit to it, go all in. Don't go at it half pregnant, or it's probably not going to have a great result. But go for it. And in 90 days, you could always go back through that door. No harm, no foul, right? Anyway, so there we go. Word association, cold calling. There we go. I just spoke about cold calling. Anyways, okay. I kind of just said it earlier. Look, if you're the kind of person that says I don't cold call, that's you got to look at it differently. You got to call people because you got something to offer them, something to tell them, something for them, something you want to give them, etc. Right? Tony Robbins has made a cold call in the last 90 days. I guarantee it. But he didn't think of it as a cold call. He had somebody that he wanted to get a hold of, and for a particular reason, and he just damn well phoned him, right? Or her. Anyway, so that look at the frame. Look, if a business has 10% net margins, right? Like most businesses do, look it up, right? Ask Grok, ask ChatGPT, ask any of them, right? Ask Google, what the average business owner in North America, let's just go right in the Western world, has got 10% net margins, right? Well, if I reduce the expenses by 11%, what did I just do? I just doubled their profits, right? Or if I decrease their expenses by 5.5% and then I increase their prices by 5%, what did I just do? The answer is I just doubled their profits. Like, it's so easy to be done in 30 days falling off a log. It's so simple that you're probably not doing it. And I guarantee the business owner is not doing it. They're not thinking about it, right? Like, if they've got their expenses are 85% of revenue, okay, so they got 15% margins. If you decrease their expenses by 10%, what happens? And the answer is their profits rise. Their profits go up by like 57%, right? So in reality is 90% have 10% net margins, right? If they have 10% margins, every dollar reduction, this is a different way of looking at it, every dollar reduction, right? Every dollar of expenses that goes away, it equates to $10 of increased revenues that they no longer need to get, right? You're speaking to somebody, a bit of a lifestyle business. Would this be a good frame? And they're not thinking along these lines. So I just say this. So cold calling, this is the kind of thing that I want, I'm saying it here and I've said it, 1,000 times over the years, and I'll continue to, because I want people to dial in. That's why I built profit acceleration software. I didn't build revenue acceleration software, right? They have zero clue. That's why you call, right? If that, to you, it's like, really? Is that the way it works? Like, again, go grab your calculator, do your numbers. I'm right. Right. So I think that's a worthy reason to call anybody. Right. And I don't look, if for every dollar, that we reduce your expenses by, it's $10 of increased revenues that you don't need to make, $10 of sales you don't need to make, $10 you do not need to make. I think that's exciting. And by the way, they're going to be completely confused. So you'll need to sit down and kind of show them and, walk them through the simulator, walk them through the software, etc. But you know what I mean? Like it's not zero rocket science, zero rocket science. Anyway, so look, cold calling. Uh, do you have to do it? How big is your warm network? Right? If it's not a decent size, you'll need to build it up with contacts, and that'll be taking people from cold to warm kind of a situation, right? It's not a big deal, and don't overthink it. But if you don't have a big warm network and you haven't been doing this for the last 5 years, maybe that's just that you're just going to have to buy into. This is what I got to do. You're not going to have to do it forever. Once it's done, it's going to be done. And no, yeah, you know what I mean? Like you build up your network and you'll be in a completely different kind of situation. Um, so, and I'd also tell you, like many self-made millionaires, and let's think from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Let's call that the Ralph Lauren Madonna kind of generations, right? But they come from like the ones that really cracked it, the millionaires and the multimillionaires, and in some cases billionaires. Remember $1 billion back then, very different to $1 billion today. But anyways, I'll leave that there. But they went door to door. Okay, so they have a door-to-door background. Doesn't need to be a 5-year door-to-door background, but they had a door-to-door background where they went. Dan Kennedy would scream this from the mountaintops. They knocked on doors and made it happen, right? There's an old saying. It's like when you do something hard, and let's refer to that as cold calling, right? The labor passes quickly, but the pride remains, right? So just think, I mentioned cold tub. You stand in front of a cold tub, and you can jump in or you can take a pass, right? And if you're not used to it, truth is it can be pretty brutal, no question, right? But you jump in, tolerate it, just control your breathing. All you got to do is control your breathing. You hyperventilate, you're going to you just control your breathing, bingo, bango, bongo, spend as much time in there as you want, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half an hour, get out. The feeling of the cold is going to go quickly, but the sense of pride remains, right? Like, truthfully, on this fast that I'm doing, look, I'd be crazy to say that I haven't thought about, you know what? I can just do this next month, right? This is stupid. I got to go to Philadelphia tomorrow. And I'm like, the timing isn't great. And I'm like, oh, all I do, ask myself this question. First of all, who's tougher, the Twinkie or me, right? The answer's got to be me. I hope that doesn't sound grandiose, but that's 100% the frame. And then I also ask, like, tomorrow, will I have wished that I followed through? And the answer is absolutely. So guess what? So I'm going to follow, like, there's zero chance I'm eating a Twinkie today. There's zero chance that I'm eating anything other than, I'm been drinking water for the rest of the day. I'm not going to wimp out. I'm not going to, all of a sudden, what I mean? It's not happening. But it's just why? Because I know tomorrow that I will be grateful. Past that, I got to go to Philadelphia and meet a bunch of clients. I don't think it makes sense that, what I mean? I'm only drinking water. So I'll probably make that decision there. But anyway, so that just, you got to, the feeling, what do I say? Like, the feeling is going to go, but the pride is going to remain. Concentrate on that pride. And again, the best way to build confidence is to keep your word to yourself. The best way to crush confidence is to not keep your word to yourself, right? So succeeding in cold calling, door-to-door situation can be hard as heck, but I think that the pride is going to remain. And not to mention the skill that you are going to build up. Remember, you're semi-retired for the rest of your life. You get 20 clients at $2,000 a month, and $2,000 a month is sandbox kind of money for the average coach. We got folks who charge $5,000 a month and $10,000 a month, and more than that. But at the end of the day, just 20 clients at $2,000 a month is $480,000 a year with like over 40% or over 80% margins. You're in the top 5%, if not the top 2% of North America. And it's just not that hard, but sounds easy. You got to go and speak to these people. You got to build up your network. You're going to have to make some cold calls, right? But the pain is going to go and the pride's going to remain when you got that business and your wife is thinking you're an absolute legend for saying you're going to do something and damn well doing it, or your husband, or whatever the case may be, right? But anyway, and the ultimate skill is sales. So cold calling is going to teach you that in spades. Again, the pain will subside quickly, but the pride is going to remain. The talent's going to stay. The skill is going to stay with you. So I would just say do it. And by the way, Elon Musk is like master master sales guy. Like, we're master, like, so Elon Musk, everybody, on his way to being a trillionaire, blah, 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 blah. I mean, he's clearly amazing, right? The alien just trying to get home, but the guy to think that he's anything but amazing at business would be crazy to, you'd love him, you hate him. I mean, the guy's unbelievable what he's doing, right? How did he get started? Well, eBay, and he was he wasn't cold calling, but he was sending individual messages to every single person on eBay saying, use PayPal, use PayPal, use PayPal, use PayPal, staying up, doing it for 18 hours a freaking day. Right. So, you know what I mean? When you reverse, you look at, and Bezos, I think he doesn't quite have that same kind of story. But Amazon was building up, no doubt. It was not going well. Remember Amazon.scam, etc. But I don't, he'd already raised, millions of dollars. So I don't know if that's the best example to go there. But Elon Musk, that's how he got going. Bottom line, just do it. Just Nike. I've written about Nike a few times in the last couple of weeks. So there you go. Just do it. Just do it. There you go. Phil Knight would be impressed. As well as Jordan, my boy Jordan. Okay. I refer to him as my boy Jordan. I'm not sure that refers to me as my boy Carl, but anywho. Okay. Phone, word. So we're staying on word association here, folks. Sales. And I'm thinking if Road Dog was here, he would have had, he would have been going from cold call to sales. There'd be some context here, but probably a little bit of common sense can be used. Word association, sales. Everything is sales. That's what I'm going to say. Trying to get my daughter to brush her teeth, which she's a little bit older. I should probably stop saying that because she brushed her teeth without asking. But at the end of the day, do her homework. It's sales, to get an invite to a party that your wife wants to attend, that your husband wants to attend. That's sales, right? Convince my wife to stop being mad at me for something I didn't do. Is that sales? But ladies, can you help me out? But anyway, so actually, I just said, I don't know, I just had a brain fart. Well, my wife, anyway, so I've been with my wife 21 years. She well and truly knows that I'm a lot of work and she's got to put up with me. So there's nothing she can listen to and nothing she can read and nothing she can hear that phases her at this point. But anyway, so getting invited to a party, right? I will tell you this, like one thing my wife and I have done, pretty good is we throw some great parties, right? The kind that I think you want to come to, right? Like my daughter's first birthday party was literally epic. We hired a live band and it was a talk of the neighborhood, right? We've had dunk tanks, we've had food trucks, we've had magic shows where all the kids kind of sat mesmerized as the magician was kind of doing her thing. And, we set it all up. For a recent party, we had like a 15-foot jumping castle kind of water slide right in the ocean. All the kids are jumping on and off. And anyways, put some pics on my Facebook page and some food. It looked at people were going, holy cow, that looks like a fun party. Put it that one, right? So not surprisingly, we end up going to a lot of parties. We host a lot and then we go to a lot, right? Translation. What am I? I'm going somewhere. Not talking about our parties, but throw a party for your friends and entrepreneurs, right? Great way to get clients. And I'm going to go on the assumption that you might, but I'm not the party thrower by any stretch of the imagination. That is my wife on steroids. I just go, okay, like I'll go and pick up the stuff and buy the beer and buy whatever. But I ain't slaving over a party with 50 people coming over. That is my wife's deal. I help to be clear, and I'll clean up a bit the next day. But anyway, so what if you threw an epic party for local entrepreneurs, like an epic one, right? Or maybe a big dinner might be more appropriate. I feel like might make sense, right? But it's kind of like rather than try to get the invite, be the one that creates the guest list, right? And imagine there's local entrepreneurs and they're hoping that they want to get an invite to your party. I was about to say something about what's a P. Diddy, who's, he threw some pretty epic parties. And of course, that has got him into a little bit of trouble. Talk about those. But I can tell you this, the truth is that, everybody wanted an invite to those parties. That's, what I mean? That goes without saying. And that's why he had, all of the big dogs and the famous folks there, which also kind of, whatever. I'll let you decide how that's all working out. But what if something like, does it need to be on that scale? Absolutely not, but could be pretty cool, right? I don't know. It's like kind of higher level of thinking, make it black tie, make it all white, make it an 80s theme, Madonna, Guns N' Roses, etc. I don't know. Get creative, right? Everybody's got to wear Ralph Lauren. Might be a bad idea. That's something I would do, but I don't know that enough people have. Um, I don't know where they'd get. Certainly where I live, nobody's buying Ralph Lauren around here. Anywho, you get the idea. But people want to socialize, right? So create a place for, your clients' businesses, your business, other businesses, and people to get together. It's like Mary Kay, she famously said, and I think, by the way, this might have been actually originally Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie, could be right, could be wrong. But anyway, so an interviewer was asking her, what's the secret of Mary Kay? Right. And it's wild success. And then she said something like, I bet you think it's the pink Cadillac, don't you? And the interviewer said, yeah, I do. And she says, now I taught my salespeople one thing and one thing only. And it's everyone has a sign around their neck. And that sign says, make me feel important. It's like, oh, that's so good. So good. If so you're throwing a party, are you going to, ignore everybody? Or are you going to make everybody feel comfortable and get to know who they are? You know what I mean? I don't know. You throw a party like that, but throw a dinner. I'm thinking maybe a dinner might make a little bit more sense. But make it killer. And when you throw the next one, they want to be invited and they want to refer their other friends and whatnot. Right. And then sales, look, you got to listen more than you talk. That kind of goes without saying. Like Tony, okay, so there's a story. I don't know if I'm going to quite get this right, but Tony Robbins, right? No doubt you'd agree that he's one of the greatest communicators of our generation, right? Pretty comfortable with that. I mean, the guy fills, rooms of 10,000 people, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so he meets somebody. And they're going to do an interview or something like that, and they say, "Wow, you're one of the greatest communicators of all time. Can we chat for 30 minutes?" Right? And he says, "Oh yeah, I'm available now." And she says, "So first question is like, with all this success and all this money that you've made, all the countries that you've been to, it must be such a great story. Tell me about all you've done and how you've done it." Right? And he responds with what? He responds, "Oh, why, thank you. Well, this is a heck of an event that you've put on here. With you've brought a lot of important people together. How did you get them all to agree to come?" She answers, right? She's finished answering. He replies, "Well, with all that you've done, um, with I don't look, you get what I'm trying to do. Like with all that you've done, you've done these before. No, uh, have you done this before? Is this the first one? Let's go there, right?" And again, what does she do? She answers, right? And then he says, when do you plan to do the next one? Because I'd really like to come, and I've got a few people that I think I might like to invite. Again, she answers, right? He says, is there anyone you invited that couldn't make it and that you wish would have come? Right? She answers, right? Guess what? You see what just happened? 30 minutes done, right? Tony Robbins speaks for 20% of the time when you speak to him, and it's basically him asking questions, and the other person is speaking for 80% of the time. Those are his coaching calls. Those are his, let's call them sales calls, etc. He's trying to influence somebody. He gets them. People don't want you to understand them. They want to feel understood, right? So all of a sudden that gal comes away and she's like, holy smokes, most amazing thing ever. I spoke to one of the most, best communicators of all time, got 30 minutes of our time, and he wangled the dynamic where basically I spoke for, 80% of the 30 minutes, right? She's like, well, now I know why he is one of the greatest communicators of all time, right? 2 ears, 1 mouth, bingo, bango, bongo. And by the way, people who speak to Tony Robbins and they say that it's life-changing, right? Like they're creating all the content, they're doing all the work, they're doing all the speaking, they're answering all the questions, right? And he gets called, a master of communication. So I think that there's a bit of magic in that. The bottom line, you got to be 2 ears, 1 mouth. You got to use them in that manner. Anywho, so there you go. I am going to stop there. I'm without my boy Road Dog. And then if you were to ask me, so Road Dog would say, okay, give me your one thing. I would go to luck, because who doesn't want to be lucky, right? How would that be a bad thing? Um, and I want you to be thinking about luck as it's as much strategic as it is anything else. But that said, trust me, like um, you line up the most successful companies of all time, right? Let's just go to the Apples and the Amazons and the Facebooks and Metas and Googles, right? Okay. If you speak to them without question, they are going to say a lot of things fell into place for no particular reason. They're just graced by God and just so, thankful, that God put these things in their way, to do. But they'd be like, there was an element of luck that came into this without question, right? I think you're obviously agree. You'll agree with that. The other one that is not spoken about very often at all, very, very seldom, I would say. Do you know what the one thing they all have in common that is just like wild? One word, it's timing. Like if Steve Jobs came up with the idea, him and Woz, whatever that was, right? But at the end of the day, they came up with the idea for the personal computer just as it launched, right? Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he came up with, the idea for Amazon. Remember like early days Amazon, like you were scared to put your credit card number into the computer, right? Well, now you won't do it any other way. Right? Like, can you send me a link? Right? Funny how that happens. So at the end of the day, timing. eBay, just eBay again. Online auction, etc. Right there. So, anyways, you just look. So timing plays an enormous part, and in some cases, you might hear that and go, "Oh, well, that's strategic." In a lot of cases, it's the furthest thing in the world from strategic. In Walmart, like when Walmart started. Okay, and if you know the story, right? Like Sam Walton, I mean, this guy was crazy in that, he risk. I mean, he put it all on the line many a times. It could have very easily have gone sideways. As with, if you read Shoe Dog, great book that I highly recommend. Shoe Dog about the Nike story. But anyways, look, at the end of the day, just luck, right? But really, timing. Well, think about Nike and a guy you might have heard of named Michael Jordan, just at the right time, right? Without Michael Jordan, Nike, I'm not sitting here talking about Nike, and nor are you, right? Sure, they would have been a great company, but they would be like, like the others, like Adidas, right? Adidas, however you want to say it. Anyway, so timing, a big thing. But so I just luck. I just want to go to luck. You want luck to fall in your favor and maybe, try engineer some timing to work in your favor. You got to do three things. Number one, you got to know what you want. Number two, you got to know why you want it. Number three, you got to commit to pay the price, but then be careful to get too attached to the outcome, which you can't control, because that can create a vibration of lack or a little bit of, kind of neediness that will, send people in the other direction. That's not good. So you got to be careful to be, needing nothing attracts everything. You put all things in your favor and go all in, but at the end of the day, it works. It doesn't. It, that the ultimate frame is not being bothered by anything, right? That's somebody you'd like to do business with. That's somebody you'd like to have a partnership with. Anyway, so I think that you can kind of move those things in your favor, a little bit strategic. Anyway, I hope that helps. Appreciate you guys being here. And I'm off to Philadelphia tomorrow to see a bunch of clients and do a little bit of speaking. Can't wait. And, but we will be back next week. Take care of yourself, folks. God bless. Bye-bye.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.